Well, I had another experience with a monitor lizard. Now, in South Africa, you have the rock monitor lizard and you have the water monitor. So the story I told about the gigantic water monitor, the Nile monitor, which I captured, which never did get to bite me or claw me to pieces, thankfully, has passed. And now the story I wish to tell you about is about the rock monitor. Now, these are a smaller monitor. They grow to around 1.5 to 1.8 maximum meters, and 1.5 is probably about the average. The difference here is these creatures have a shorter neck and a shorter head, and they have the most powerful jaws of anything you could ever imagine. Their jaws are extremely powerful and they close on you like a vice. And I can tell you, if you want to get bitten by anything, don't get bitten by one of these. Make sure this is not on your bitten list. So the story starts when I went to South America. And my father accompanied us on that trip. In fact, he was the one who really took us there. I was quite young. I think at the time I was 17 years old. I think that's right, yes. So off we went to South America. And we were in Rio de Janeiro, and there I met a wonderful person, Arivaldo Dutro Gomes. I'll never forget him. He befriended me on Ipanema Beach. Wonderful chap, and he took me to stay with himself and his family in one of the villages on the outskirts of Rio de Janeiro. And he soon learnt about my passion for wildlife, and so packed me into a taxi and off we went up a long pass into the forest, and we went walking around, and I found tarantulas and all sorts. But two wonderful things I found was a massive tree frog which had a very strange big flat head and huge big protruding eyes, and he could move his head around like a big flat plate being on a pivot. It was the most incredible thing, and also wonderful colors of purple and green. So I took that back with me to the city, and then I caught a lizard, something like a basilisk, which ran around on two legs. Very novel, since we don't have any lizards, or I had never met any lizard yet in South Africa that ran around on two legs as did this one. It was a beautiful cream-colored lizard with a few black spots on it. Anyway, I never did find out what it was. So I wanted to take them back to South Africa, which I knew was illegal, but having a slight dishonesty about me at the time, I thought I would smuggle them back to South Africa. I thought the consequences couldn't be that bad if I was found with these. But not wanting to be found out, because my father had warned me, he said, don't try to smuggle anything out of the country. I think he guessed that I might try that. He said, because the customs officials will take one look at you and they'll see that you're nervous and they'll nab you. So I thought, okay, so what do I do? Well, the best thing to do was to put them in my father's suitcase, because he wouldn't be nervous. And then I could be as nervous as I want, and they'd find nothing on me. Terrible thing. Anyway, so I took a pair of his socks, put the lizard in one sock and put the frog in the other sock, moistened it a bit, and when he wasn't around and we were almost ready to leave, I buried them in the bottom of his suitcase under all his clothing. And off we went to the airport. Well, as nervous as I was, they didn't stop me, and of course they didn't stop my father, who was of course not nervous at all. And we ended up back in South Africa, and I had my two fabulous representations of the forests of South America. Anyway, so I kept these two creatures for some time, some 2 or 3 years. They did famously well and became very tame. And I loved my lizard in particular. So one day I took one of our monitor lizards from the park, which it was a temporary park. It was one that we were developing, and took it home to our accommodation, our homestead, because it wasn't looking very well. I thought I would feed it some eggs and some other items with some multivitamins, get it back into shape. And it refused to eat for quite a long period. So because it wasn't eating, I put it into the enclosure with my most favorite of all time lizards, which he promptly ate. I cannot believe it. He ate my South American special basilisk-like lizard, which I'd gone to all the trouble of smuggling to South Africa, and just to spite me, he ate it.